that you're listening and that you're willing to try out different things. And so for a rapid response group, so again, as part of your plan, suggest this as a potential approach to engaging your champions. And this rapid response group could take different forms. So we don't want to suggest that there's one way to do this. At the end of the day, this is again a group of people that are you've identified and that have volunteered to be involved in helping you promote your message online. And it's not to say that you're going to have some organic engagement where people are going to just share your content because they care about the issue or they like your message. But again, the whole point of this is how do you actually take that to the next level. And so email groups and Slack are two we'll talk about and have used on our various campaigns, Day and myself. And so I actually want to show you the setup of a Google group, and we'll do that later on in the session. But Slack is another tool that I find very useful. If you haven't heard about it, today it really is a team messaging tool. So you need to invite people into the group. So it's not like a public forum, but for example, the way Open Democracy Project uses it, pretty much anybody that says they want to volunteer in the project or even just get involved with the Open Democracy Project. And Open Democracy Project is the group that publishes DemocracyKit. We invite people into our Slack channel. So, I'd be more than happy for anybody on this line who wants to be part of this group to join in. And then there are various channels where, for example, you could have a rapid response channel and you could post stories that you're sharing or, particular actions if you need to respond to something in the news. And you can see an example on this slide where the Cannabis Amnesty campaign, which is not an Open Democracy Project campaign, however, we are helping to accelerate it. We're helping to give them the tools and the approach to get off the ground. They're using Slack for their rapid response, and you can see that articles are being posted, whether that's things happening in the States or here in Canada, and that's just allowing everybody in that channel. So the 7 team members that are, you can see, a part of that group, that allows them to take those messages, spread it, but also this is a way for the team to aggregate content, to find stories and share it, and then their social media lead is taking those stories and posting them through the central channel. I think, Day, you're using a similar approach with Women Win?
Yes, we are actually using Slack. We use Google Drive for a lot of things, but yeah, Slack is for everything. We have different channels for different events, for different projects, and one is definitely communications and rapid response.
Excellent, thank you. So going back to, I don't know where I cut out, but I was just saying that this drive is a one we used on the Creative Calgary campaign. This is a promotion package that we had some graphics. We had several Google documents that gave members of the campaign who were championing the campaign the tools they needed to spread the word. So we'll just take a look at an example here where we were providing the basics in terms of what they needed to spread the word on or about various channels and where we were located. Logos and graphics. We actually gave links to the campaign logos, to the brand guide, importantly. And so in this case, this brand guide, laid out how to use the various graphics that were produced, colors and whatnot. And so you may not have something that's laid out exactly in this format or that's as professionally done as this, but that's fine. You could just be a document that lays out what's your core message, what do you stand for, as Day went through earlier. It's really important that that's shared, and most people, I find that sometimes people get concerned. What if somebody goes rogue or they say something that could hurt our campaign? And part of that is, if somebody's got a track record of sharing your content and is engaged with you, I've not had a problem with somebody who has already shown that kind of engagement. If they get more involved, they really want to help out. Where it's more of an issue, I find, is that people just don't have the information to know how to talk about your campaign, which is where they go off message sometimes. So it's important to make sure that you set everybody up for success by doing some of this prep, communicating to them what are the messages, but also what maybe not to talk about at this point in the campaign, right? Because you might want to build momentum over the course of your campaign, and there may be things that you do not want to address quite yet. So providing example social posts, sample emails that folks could use, and all of the graphics they need to do the promotion. So that's just a simple example. I'll provide like a document like this in the training kit that's going to be circulated after, so you have a template to work from. Also mentioned just this morning, you would have gotten an email, and we tried to just set it up in that similar way, right? A simple message you could take and tweet. You could download the graphic, and so we'll talk a bit more about how to create a graphic like this, but this was an example again of a simple email, the type of thing you want to do to help empower folks in your network to actually spread the word. For those of you that are wondering, the system we're using to power this DemocracyKit as well as those communications, we do use Nation Builder for that. Okay, so that's an example of a promotion. Is as I mentioned earlier in the webinar, a rapid response email group. And so the other tool I mentioned for a rapid response team is Slack. And so Slack, if you go to slack.com, I find it's pretty straightforward in terms of setting up a Slack group. So if you're interested in setting up a Slack group, I just recommend going to slack.com, watch their intro video. You'll find it's pretty straightforward. It's a free tool, and you can add as many team members in as you want. I do find that people get a little bit more confused or stuck on setting up an email group, but once you've set up an email group, it's a really simple tool to use. And in some ways, the nice thing about an email group versus, say, a tool like Slack is that you'll find that some teams, depending on the culture of your team or whatnot, it's setting up a new tool that they have to use. You may not have adoption across the board. So one thing that most people are comfortable with is email. So setting up an email group is a way that they don't have to set up a new account or a new password. It's making it really easy. Again, this is the kind of thing you don't want to force people into a way of working. You want to find out what the consensus, not just the consensus, but make a decision as a team about what you want to use. And so a tool like an email group can be very, very helpful. So I've got an example email group. This is the Open Democracy Project Toronto group. And one of the first things that happens when people come to the Open Democracy Project, Toronto meetup is that we'll add them into a group like this. This group not only provides the ability for us to quickly update members of the community, it also gives access to our Google Drive folders. Okay, so I'm going to talk about creating a group like this and how you might use it. So basically, any Google account, Gmail or G Suite, you're going to be able to create free groups. The one tip I have is that I would not recommend using the group for like back and forth conversation, because people will stop listening, right? If they're getting all sorts of messages that, especially emails. If you want to have a conversation, use a tool like a Slack or whatnot. I find groups are great for, say, one-way distribution of messages, and then people can email you directly if they want to get back to you. So what you can do in groups is you can actually turn off the ability for members to reply all basically to the group. And so in terms of creating a group, you just go to groups.google.com, create a group, and it's as easy as adding in a group name. And then in this case, for example, if we said, champions at DemocracyKit.org, then all people would need to do, or like your administrators, people who are sending messages out to this group, all they need to do is email champions at DemocracyKit.org, and the people in the group will get an email. Okay, so down here you can see who can post to the group. So in this case, you turn off all organization members, all members, and it would just be managers and owners of the group. You can make as many people as you want managers, but that means that you're not going to have people being able to reply. And again, it's not that you don't want to have conversation. It's just that if you're going to have back and forth, either one-on-one or move that to a tool like Slack. Once you've created your group, again, I'm not going to go over in the interest of time, all of the details there. It's pretty self-explanatory. But one thing that's not is about how to actually add people. And so if you're managing folks, I would just suggest in this left-hand column here, once you've created your group, if people have opted in, if they've said explicitly, I want to be part of this group, instead of adding them to invite, which they have to go through a process of accepting the invitation, if they've already opted in, just direct add people. So this turns what a tool into one that often, if you just invite, you're not going to have people, they're going to lose that email, or they're not going to know how to do it or whatnot. Just direct add them. And then you don't, as long as they've opted in verbally or by emailing you or in direct message, say, yeah, I'm in, you can just add them here. So this is the kind of thing, if you're Facebook messaging some prospective champions or sending a DM on Twitter or whatnot, if somebody says, yes, I'm in, I'm happy to contribute my, couple hours a week, or I'm happy to send out a few messages a week, then one thing you can say is, okay, we're going to add you to a group. You'll get one email a week, and it's going to have key messages for the week, right? So being clear on what you're asking of folks is a way to increase the likelihood they're actually going to take an action and follow through and be able to manage their time on their end. And then you just need to make sure through using a tool like a content calendar, but also within your team that you're able to deliver on that and send that out. And a tool like a group makes it easier for you. You don't have to, BCC people or set up some other MailChimp program or something like that that can just take an extra time. Okay, so this is direct adding folks to a group and using groups, and you can see in the group here. Let's take Rank Ballot Roadshow. We were participating in that, and I was telling folks that we were going to be there, right? So that's the kind of message you can send out. We're actually finding that we're increasingly using Slack because people want to have that conversation. So, but we started off organizing using Google Groups. In terms of